I got it. Yeah. I just had to restart it, but it's a different link, so I'm gonna send it.
Okay. Yeah, right. How much did you spend last year doing? That's a good question. Yeah. I'll give it a we have a category called other. Which really good. Yo, this guy got easy. We should boycott easy. Like, they don't make it. They don't make it because he broke off with it. I got one to reach out. Why would you pay me? No, it's no, it's just you. Oh, for me or you?
I sent it to Kruthi and Cheruvi. Outlook.
You said like 40 or 50, 100%. Oh, I'm doing it right now. What, that's like, is that 10 like
It's working now. Trust. That's what I did. The team has been proving side in our finances. Yeah, who's darker? What do you think is the smartest thing to do? Am I wrong? I've really done zero work. We got MIT, InvenTeam, actually with MIT. doesn't matter. I don't know myself that I'm in jail. And it will be alive. Doesn't matter. You don't care. It's just part of it. Oh, we're gonna learn again this year. We were all going to 2 years, probably the first. How about
Well, hello everyone. We are the Mass Academy, Lemelson-MIT InvenTeams, and we present to you DOT, Diversifying Obstacle Technology, the project that we've been working on. So some brief table of contents. We're going to start off with some introductions of the team, and later we have a video testimonial from Liz Miska, a VIP visually impaired person who has helped us out in this journey tremendously. We're going to follow up with some background of our device, the problem, the solution. We're going to go into detail about our inventions, the challenges we faced, our current development, how it stands, the next steps, and finally, we'll be opening the floor to a Q&A where you can feel free to ask us questions. And then after that, we have 2 posters where we feel free to have a walkthrough and kind of ask us questions more in depth about anything that comes to mind. So more specifics can be dealt there. There'll also be some refreshments in the back for guests and members of the team. And yeah, let's just start. So my name is Abigail Figueroa.
And my name is Kirby Gundu. We collectively run the community engagement and technical development.
I'm Smita Vadangi and I run the software development.
I'm Charlie Singh and I run the curriculum writing research.
And I'm Derek DeRosiers and I run the finance team.
So to go some more specifics of our team members, like I said, me and Kirby, we lead the technical development alongside admin, Vic, Cecilia, and Grace. If you guys are here, we welcome you to stand up.
All right, and for the community engagement team, which is again run by me and Abby, we have Gustavo and Batso. You guys are here.
For the technical writing and research team, we have Stephen Weixman, if you guys want to stand up.
And for the software development team, we have me, Bridget, and Michelle, so if you guys want to stand up as well.
And then for the finance team, we have Shayna who couldn't be here and Rayhan who can stand up.
So we'll start with a video testimonial by Liz Miska. So Liz runs WalkFit, which is a walking initiative which aims to bridge the divide between sighted individuals and visually impaired individuals. So if you want to do the video here.
Hello, my name is Liz Miska. I call myself a VIP. That stands for visually impaired person. 17 years ago, I started losing my eyesight to a progressive retinal disease, and I had to learn how to live my life a different way than I had previously. I use now parts of my body that I never used before because I can no longer use my eyes to the extent that I did previously. So I'm a white cane user. The white cane is an extension of my arm. So I'm able to detect things, feel things through my cane. Similarly, I'm able to use my hands to feel things. I also use my hearing to get audio cues, things that I always had innately but never used before. What I like about allying with Mass Academy students is they have proficiencies that I don't. I'm a lawyer by trade, trying to deduce and collaborate with my clients so that we become a team. And the Mass Academy students have exhibited that kind of behavior towards me as well. Their project that involves Braille, which I, as a visually impaired person, you would think would know, but I don't. And the reason I don't is because as you age, you lose the tactile sensitivity in parts of your body, particularly your fingertips. And Braille involves using your fingertips in order to access the information. I'm a community builder, and how I do that is by bringing people who are sighted, whether they be students or retirees or volunteers, into collaboration with myself as a VIP, a visually impaired person, and other VIPs. And we skill build and relationship build. And that's how I came to be part of the team for this project. I was approached by the team members, and I invited them to experience the world like I do, which involves going on blindfold, using a white paint, because that's my reality. They were game, they were game, and hopefully they realized from that experience that we as VIPs shouldn't be pitied or praised, but we want to be participatory in whatever life has to offer us. The students that I was collaborating with wanted to be introduced to others that I have the privilege of being part of my posse, part of my corral. So I introduced them to individuals from Mass College of Pharmacy, from other resources that cater to the visually impaired and blind. And they were able to have a demonstration of their device at Polar Park during Blind Awareness Day in 2024. I also have a walking initiative that's called Walk Fit that I started 10 years ago with an optometry student from Mass College of Pharmacy. I said, but let's create something that involves everybody, the blind ordinary, but the sighted population as well. And so Walk Fit was our creation, still going strong today, where we commingle the populations. We commingle people who are sighted with people who are not, and we skill build. So just like the Mass Academy students in this project learned about me and about my peers, I learned about them and what they brought to the table and what I brought to the table. So it's skill building and it's relationship building. So what I hope for this project that the Mass Academy students have involved me in is that they will take this information into their futures. They will remember me and my peers, and they will say, hey, we don't know anything about this. Let's get in touch with Liz. Let's puzzle this out with her. So that's why I'm so elated to be part of this effort. Hello.
So yeah, so there's some very inspiring words from Liz. We thank her so much for her testimonial there. So we'd like to take this opportunity now to formally present to you the team as a whole. We are the Mass Academy InvenTeam. We are comprised of 16 Mass Academy students, as you can see in the picture there. And we won this grant, first of all, as Mass Academy students, we feel a certain drive to explore things that are typically like go on the beaten path or something like that. So we do this through STEM fairs or other sorts of curriculum that go beyond what is traditionally done. So we're really looking for that challenge to do something new. We find that the Lemelson Foundation does the same. They're looking to inspire the next generation of inventors. So we feel inspired, and we applied to their grants back in April. We spent the summer forming a hefty application with many community service outreach or like visually impaired community outreach. along with developing proposals, device designs, schematics. And we found that we won a $7,500 grant by the end of September. So since then, we've been working diligently on advancing our device, and we bring to you this mid-grad tech review to update you on our progress. In June, we will be presenting our finished prototype at Eureka Fest at MIT, which will be an opportunity for the STEM fair to show off what we've done and meet the other InvenTeams in the nation as well.
Yeah, so to start off, we can talk about the issue at hand, why we choose this project. So, for a lot of the visual world in our everyday environments, a lot of the signage, a lot of like the information we encounter is conveyed through visual signage. Restaurants have menus, malls have advertisements. And for visually impaired individuals, which constitute over 250 million individuals, this is an issue. And accessing this information without reliance on a sighted individual or audio components is difficult. So we found when we were looking into the daily lives of visually impaired individuals that Braille is a large component of accessibility for these individuals. So Braille helps increase self-autonomy as they don't have to rely on other individuals. So when we were looking at Braille, we saw that there's a large need for Braille literacy because there's only 10% of the Braille of the visually impaired population knows Braille. And as Liz mentioned before, Braille is more common with younger visually impaired individuals because they have more tactile sensations in their fingers. So when we were looking at the target audience for this, we wanted to really focus this on adolescents. And when we were looking at Braille literacy in adolescents, we saw that the numbers were low. And Braille literacy clearly has large implications for socioeconomic status of these individuals and like health and wellness implications. But given that low number, 10%, there's clearly a deficiency in Braille literacy. And as you can see from this other statistic, 90% of employed visually impaired individuals know Braille. So we wanted to create a device that would increase that low number of Braille literacy to help the everyday lives of these visually impaired individuals.
And so before we get into some of the technical aspects of our project, let's talk about some of our community engagement that Abby and Liz both introduced for us. So basically throughout our invention process and continuing in the future, we've been working with individuals with visual impairment to design our device that meets their needs. Because really, if you think about it, if you're inventing anything for an audience or a customer, it needs to meet their needs, otherwise there's not really a point of inventing it at all. So throughout our entire process, we've been working with these individuals to design our device, make sure we're meeting their needs again. And one of the main organizations we worked with in the beginning was Perkins School for the Blind, which is in Massachusetts. Big thumbs up for that. But so they actually have their own innovation center. And when we were first developing our prototype and thinking about some ideas, we were working with some individuals from Perkins, and they actually told us that they have a big need for a device that they can use in their schools for individuals or students with visual impairment or who are developing a visual impairment, so that they can take it home and begin to practice learning Braille, especially if their parents don't know Braille. Because for a lot of these students, they come from families who don't have visual impairments, so these students don't really have the same access as some other students might have. So they need a device that is one, cheap, and two, easy to use, so that they can use it for as many students as possible, and they can begin to learn Braille and practice on their own time.
And going back to that need that Perkins told us that they need more Braille devices to help these adolescents learn Braille at home and in school, one of the main reasons for this need is because of the high cost of Braille readers. So a lot of Braille readers work solely with a computer interface where you can only translate computer files that are then sent to a Braille reader where the user can then read the translated files. However, this means that you're unable to access any text in the environment because these devices are not able to read any text from posters or advertisements or anything like that. And additionally, these translation devices can be an upwards of $3,500 to $50,000, which means that for many children and many adults that know Braille, these devices are very financially inaccessible, and that is something that we and our team are very passionate about, of making our device as affordable as possible to make it as accessible as possible to these adolescents and these VIPs that use Braille every day.
So when we started out with our project, we wanted to make sure that we had a couple of goals that we were trying to achieve to measure our success, essentially. So the first is, just as Smita mentioned, we want to make sure that our device is affordable, because so many of the devices that exist currently are inaccessible, and we don't want that to happen with ours. So our goal is to keep our devices' overall cost under $200. And this is a major decrease in price compared to the current devices on the market, which are, as Smita said, upwards of $3,500. So our second goal, to again try to work towards success and make sure that we're staying on track with what we actually want to achieve, is that our device should be portable. Because we want this device, and these children who are learning Braille, these adults who want to use this device to navigate, it should be easy to carry around. It should be easy to use. It shouldn't be something in the back of their mind that's like, oh, okay, this device is hard to carry around, or it's heavy, it's really big, I can't carry it with only one hand. So these are all kind of things that we are keeping in mind when we're developing the device, in a way that we want to make sure we're keeping the audience in mind. And the final and probably biggest goal that we have is that our device should be able to translate text that is picked up from a camera and display it as Braille on the device itself. So this is essentially the whole goal of the device, and we want to make sure that by the end of the year, we are able to achieve not only the last goal, but all three of them, to make sure that we're staying on track and we're actually able to achieve that success we want.
And so keeping all of those requirements and goals in mind, and taking into account all of the feedback that we've received from various organizations and VIPs, we proposed an optical Braille device. So our device is an affordable and portable device that VIPs can use to access text in their environment. So this device will have a camera that will take pictures of advertisements, menus, or any other signs, extract that text using optical character recognition, and translate that text into Braille configuration that will be displayed on our Braille cells and Braille modules to provide a tactile medium for VIPs to access text in their environment. So for the first part of our device design is the optical character recognition part. So we propose using a microcontroller. So we are using a DSP32 board that has a camera attached to it. And the microcontroller will process and run all of the optical character recognition through Tesseract. So Tesseract is a OCR engine that uses a lot of machine learning and image processing techniques to identify any English characters from any images. And after we translate the text that is extracted from these images, we will translate it into grade 1 Braille and then map the corresponding electrical currents that will raise Braille pins up and down to translate that into readable and professional Braille.
All right, so after we're able to translate that text into Braille characters and really convert it into the proper electrical currents, this is where the electrical current is actually going to be used. So the main component of our project of the device is this Braille cell module. And it's the real reason why we're able to keep the price so low and the device design so simple. So this Braille module and its PCB that we're able to connect everything together with is adapted from a project on the open source project Source Hackaday. And essentially the way that it works is we're able to run currents that reach electromagnets. And with these electromagnets, we can generate fields. And by switching the polarity of these fields, we can move a cam with a magnet in it, which you can see in the top right, up and down, by essentially pulling the magnet closer by attracting the top of the magnet, and pushing the cam away by repelling the magnet on the top side. And it's this very simple mechanism that is able to raise these Braille pins up and down at our own control. We send the electrical current, and then the action that we want, whether the pin is up or down, is performed. Very simply. And there's two main things to note about this Braille module. The first is that a majority of the components are either very cheap or 3D printed, which is the main reason why the price is actually so low. The second is that it's very simple and easy to put together. which when we're thinking towards the future, it's easy to manufacture and again, lowers the costs. In addition to these Braille modules, we have PCBs for each of the Braille module, which can be seen in the image on the left. And we also have a larger PCB board, which connects everything together. So it connects the ESP32 board and essentially allows it to send the proper electrical signals to each of the Braille module PCBs, which then raises or lowers the Braille pins.
So for current progress, for the software development team, we've been primarily focusing on the optical character recognition part of the device. So in the first picture, we can see that we have the ESP32 microcontroller, and we use an Adafruit camera that is attached to it because of its small size and autofocus capabilities. And then we, for initial testing, we created a web server that displays that camera so we can see the output. And we use Tesseract using a Python library called PyTesseract, which allows us to use Tesseract in Python. And we take pictures of text that we on a piece of paper or something that we put in front of the camera and extracts it, and then we use another Python library called PyBraille to translate the text into Braille. So in hindsight, this may seem very simple, but we experienced a very number of roadblocks. So for example, because of our small camera, there isn't that good of a resolution, which means that this affects the accuracy of the optical character recognition. So if we see in the first picture, I have a piece of paper where I wrote diversifying optical technology, and it output RSA, stickle, tech, Rolo. It's a big mess, right? So again, this is due to many different factors. Number one, the zoom and autofocus, and also the lighting of this image. So what we did was we tried using image processing to enhance that image to make the OCR more accurate. So we used a grayscale to make it in black and white to make it easier for the optical character recognition to extract that text. And we also enhanced the contrast of the image to make it more sharper and easier to read the text. So we've been a lot more successful after that.
So on the tech dev side, side, we've started current progress with developing the Braille module itself. So first of all, we started with a large solenoid that will generate a larger electromagnetic field to see if that has the ability to rotate the cam or move it in any way. On the second picture, you can see us doing the same test with the smaller, more defined bar magnets. And essentially what we did here is that we had the south pole aligned with the small cam and magnet in the middle. And as we moved that bar magnet from one side to the other, the cam repelled by it would go in the opposite direction. Finally, can you look at the video here? We have the one-dot test. So we assembled everything together, and by switching the polarity between north and south poles on that bar magnet, you can see that the Braille pin raises up and down, proving that we have an effective model. Now for our challenges on this side, first of all, we found that when we were initially trying it, the Braille, nothing was working, nothing was moving, and that was because the cam movement was restricted. On the 3D printing file, it had these like little nubs, which we believed would help keep it in place, but it was actually hindering the movement of the cam. So what we decided to do was to sand it down and sand it down a lot, so that it would be more free to move inside there. It's very small. And we found that this worked. Our second challenge is something that we're currently stuck on right now, is the solenoid itself. So these are the little solenoids that we can make to put into each, not like Braille module, each like individual pin. So each one would have 6. There's a lot and it's very tedious work. So we find that it's currently not generating a magnetic field no matter which direction or like what input we're giving it. So what we're doing currently is experimenting with some pre-made solenoids that we bought. And also, we're going to see if rewinding the coils in a different direction will have some effects, because we know that in physics, like the whole equation, perhaps that can influence it.
Yeah. So we got our start with this project through WalkFit, like we had talked about. So we wanted to give you experience with WalkFit. So we have this video that Liz recorded again a couple of years ago, and it takes you through the experience of WalkFit. So enjoy it.
video from Liz about her experience guiding a sighted person through her world. You might recognize that as Elm Park in Worcester. That's precisely where she took us when we underwent the same challenge with her. So as you can see on that picture, that is Derek doing the blind challenge. He had a fun time. And just to go over some of the community engagement endeavors that we've done, we've also had meetings with experts in assistive technology, like Bonnie. She's at WPI, and she, a couple years back, also experimented with a device sort of similar to ours, optical text-to-braille reader. She gave us her insight on what we could do better, what we could improve, how technology has changed since when she tried it back in the early 2000s. And that final picture is us presenting our initial design for this idea at the LAM STEM Fair back in May.
Some more community engagement work that we've done is on the left. You can see that our team here was interviewed by the former president of the Massachusetts Senate, Harriet Chandler, on her little TV show called Channel Chats. And you can also see in the bottom on the middle here that we are collecting feedback at Polar Park, which Liz mentioned in her video. And this was a really fundamental event for our team to be at because we were really able to interact directly with people who have visual impairments. We were able to garner their support, get signatures of their support, and allow them to really feel our prototype, give us some direct feedback, and that we were able to take into consideration when we continued working on our device in the fall and up till now. And on the right here, you can see that our team also presented our project at a competition at WPI, which we were able to get much more feedback from individuals in various test spaces as well.
And then, so to talk a little bit more about our financial aspect, which you guys can feel free to stop me and write on later. Basically, during our initial prototyping, before we actually were awarded the Lemelson-MIT grant, we spent around $198 to make one functional PCB board that has the braille cells and all those parts into it. And we're expecting our device to cost around $250. So this is like pretty representative of basically this pie chart is our estimated expenses for the Lemelson-MIT grant, which does add up to more than the $3,500 we were allotted from the grant. But so basically, after we spend all that money, we'll be doing additional community fundraising to add to our funds to be able to better prototype our device. As you can see here in this pie chart, the biggest percentage of what our funding is going to is prototyping and testing, basically getting equipment to actually make our devices, but also equipment to test it to make sure everything's working properly, and eventually make more of the same device over and over.
All right, so just as important as explaining the work that we've done so far, we also want to make sure that we're able to present where we want to go from here. So the first thing that we want to make sure that we accomplish is really continuing to connect with the visually impaired community, continuing to get feedback from them, because we know that innovation and engineering is an iterative process. So we want to make sure that at every step of the way, we're able to present our device to our true audience, get feedback, incorporate that feedback, and make our device just better and better. The second thing that we want to accomplish is, as we mentioned before, the issues that we've been having with the solenoids. We want to try those different strategies to see if we can combat the issue with the solenoids, which is essentially their lack of creating a field. We want to make sure that we try different strategies, and in the end, really be able to work those tiny solenoids that we can put into our braille modules. Something else that we want to do is we want to be able to generate, we want to be able to assemble the finished braille modules, and that is essentially putting the module together. So what we have today is we have the cam, the magnet, and the 3D printed structure of the braille module. But we want to make sure that we're really able to add on the solenoids and create the same up and down motion that we showed today. Another thing that we want to do is we want to successfully convert the braille translation into electrical current that can be sent to the circuits through the PCB board, which will essentially allow us to control each of those braille modules and display precisely the characters that we want to show. And finally, we want to successfully display the correct Braille characters on the device and have the device from beginning to end entirely functional, keeping those goals in mind.
So that's the end of the presentation. We just wanted to give a big thank you to the Lemelson Foundation for allowing us this opportunity to extend our device and our development on this bigger scale, and for all their guidance and mentorship. We will now open the floor up to a Q&A. If anybody wants to ask any questions, right now would be a great time. We also have some QR codes if you'd like to scan and if you're interested. This one takes you to our team website where you'll read some more information, some blog posts and updates. And then the second one is a link or a QR code to our GoFundMe if you wanted to, if you're feeling generous, throw a little dollars in there. And then finally, we have a Gmail account if you want to write to us with any more specific questions after this event. So now it's the Q&A, and then afterwards, as you can see, we have two posters towards the back of the room. We will be breaking off into these stations. Community engagement and writing will be together, tech dev and software will be together, and there you have an opportunity to ask us more questions in detail, maybe make some personal connections, one-on-one, stuff like that. Things that maybe you'll feel comfortable asking in a bigger Q&A. So yeah, are there any questions currently?
So you said that your new image processing software was able to better recognize the characters. How much better is it doing? Like, what is its accuracy, and what are the majority of its shortcomings?
Yeah, great question. So, the image processing definitely did help a little bit, but I think another issue we're kind of facing is that the image processing works differently in different rooms. So based on the lighting, it works differently. So depending on the commands that we have, those commands might make the image processing actually worse in different rooms. So as far as accuracy, for the most part, it does help because we're able to extract the text a lot more accurately. But again, there is still a lot more work that we have to do, and that's something we able to experiment with and see like what works the best in the future.
Is it able to handle different fonts, writing utensils, handwriting, font sizes? Like, what is the program able to handle?
So I actually have very bad handwriting, and it was able to recognize my handwriting pretty well. We have a few printouts of text that we had like from Google Docs, and it was able to recognize that as well. But I think if the image processing gets better, I think automatically that font and that recognition will also get better.
Also, just to add on, if you'd like to see a demo of like any of the devices we showed, the stations are the place to see that too.
If visually impaired person were to not land the camera exactly right, to maybe too far left or far right, are there any systems in place to alert them that they need to adjust or that?
You bring up a really great point, and that's something that we plan on incorporating in the future. So we're hoping that the software that we implement onto the device will be able to guide the user to essentially create some margin around the text that they want to recognize. So that would be through commands that are like, move back, move to the left, to the right, to make sure that not only is all the text being captured, but nothing is being cut off and there's enough space around the text that needs to be recognized so that everything is being converted.
So you already have the speaker on the device, or the speaker on the
That would be something we add. Currently, we don't have a speaker on it, but we would be adding.
Can you repeat the question? I couldn't quite hear that.
Yeah, so the question was if we currently have a speaker on the device to do those commands. So we do not currently, but that is something we will be adding in the future. Any other questions?
I noticed that the device only seems to have like 10 different Braille characters on it, or maybe less. I was wondering for bigger blocks of text, how do users read all of the text?
Yeah, so basically, since it's a refreshable Braille display, there's a different ways we could do it. Currently, our device does only have 8 Braille cells, we are hoping our final design basically doubles that and has 16. That is basically the length for most words in the English language are at maximum around 60 words. But if we do have to split it up, it would be refreshable. So it might cut off a word, we might add a hyphen. So there's a few different ways we can kind of go around that without necessarily adding more cells.
You mentioned, I think, in your device, kind of talking about your device, how
Have you thought of using anything that can use the hard to recognize characters on probability tests to predict what the word is? Have you thought of using something that can recognize the previous characters and then use those to high probability test on which word is more likely to be in that sentence based on those recognized letters? And that would be
So yeah, great question. We were also hoping to include autocorrect. So there's a lot of libraries that have autocorrect capabilities. So if we have like optical character recognition and it's kind of cut off or if it's not exactly correct, that autocorrect will correct for that. So yeah, that's something we hope to include as well.
My understanding is that a lot of autocorrect uses kind of the positions on the keyboard. Are you able to modify these existing autocorrect libraries to instead of using positions, instead use the shape of the letter?
Yeah, so because all of these libraries are from Python, because the ES keyboard came from Python, they are customizable and we can easily change anything that we want to make it a better fit for our device.
okay, you mentioned that the device needs like electrical or sent electrical currents in order for the rails to kind of, I guess, kind of come up. So does the device constantly send the electric signal? Or is it just kind of like set once and then it's able to kind of hold that position?
So basically how our device works is it does constantly send a signal, but it changes it changes what type of signal is going into each pin. So there is always a signal going through the solenoid, but basically by changing the direction of the current, we can change the direction of the field, and that's what flips the magnet up and down.
We have the user set up the camera, have the computer up the task, and the person who does the task, how long will it take?
So to repeat that question, she was asking how long it takes for the software to basically recognize the text and then actually display it on the device.
So as far as the upload vector recognition, it shouldn't take more than 10 seconds. It is very quick. And as far as the electrical currents, I think.
Yeah, so the electrical currents we can control when they go up and down. So the real limiting factor here is the movement of the cam itself. And right now we're still playing around with the shape that works best. I mean, we were having issues getting it to move in the first place, but that's really the factor out of all the things that are happening that decides the speed of the whole process from beginning to end. So I don't really have like an estimate of the amount of time that it takes, but I am 100% sure that with small changes made to the shape of the cam and the shape of the holder, we can definitely make it faster so that's no longer the longest part of the process.
And to add to that, typically once the code is actually sent from the ESP board and it's going through the circuit board, it takes around 2 milliseconds each. So it is very fast to actually get that signal to the pin that we're using. Any other questions?
A question about the power of the device. Are you thinking batteries, rechargeable pack? How would it indicate to the user when it needs to be charged?
And so just to repeat that question, he was asking how we're going to give power to the device.
So right now we're thinking a battery, which would have to be replaced, but we can easily swap that out for something that can be rechargeable. So yeah, I think a battery is better because you can always have one on you, and that again and makes the device more portable, because if you have to charge it, that means you need to be next to an outlet once it runs out. So right now we're thinking of a battery that can be replaced.
How are you planning on accounting for different reading speeds with the refreshing braille?
So another idea that we had to incorporate once the device is finished is essentially an app that can be connected to the device through Bluetooth. It doesn't always need to be connected, but on that device you can essentially control different things like the speed and switching between grade 1 and grade 2 braille. As with the braille characters that we have, we can easily display both. Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Alexander Fuller. I'm the Director of Assistive Technology with the Mass Mission for the Blind. I'll start by saying that what an outstanding presentation your group has put on. It's really important for us to see innovation in this tech space for people with visual impairments across the country, especially here in Massachusetts. To give you a little bit of context, at any given time, we have approximately 30,000 people who are registered with the Commission for the Blind that are in need of services of one side or another. And as we kind of age out our population, they are more and more tech savvy, so they are more interested in finding technical solutions to the obstacles they face for either at home or community independence, and definitely things that are helping them out to achieve competitive employment. So a lot of the technical questions here that I'm asking, great. I'm going to throw a curveball and ask really a non-technical question. What about the design of the device? My understanding is this is the idea that this is more directed towards school-age children. Is that what we're looking for? So as we think about it with school-age children, they're a little tough with their equipment and electronics. So something that can be very easily overlooked, but should be considered in the device. Our biggest cost with maintaining refreshable braille displays is the service and maintenance agreement after you purchase the device. It's very, very integrated with the individual cells, and one cell going down can really have a negative impact on the device. So as you're thinking about the final design of the device itself, give some thought to shock absorbency on the device. It can be as simple as just adding some pads, adding a softer material that can absorb a little bit of impact. When making a presentation and presenting it towards that specific program in that group, just acknowledging that as something that's out there really go a far way to helping people who potentially consider buying that device for a school district, knowing that you survive a 5-year-old potentially pushing off the desk before. But again, great job, guys. Really, really excited to see you guys go with this.
So thank you for that. You raised an amazing point. And I'd say the benefit with a majority of our device being 3D printed and the modules also being separate, it's very easy to replace the modules. So I think when we continue iterating with the device, we can try to make sure that it's easy to replace each of those braille modules one by one, so that if one goes down, you can always just put another one in. And the benefit of the device being entirely 3D printed is that we can really choose the material that the device is made out of very easily. So again, also adding features like you mentioned would be really easy to do, as our almost our entire product is 3D printed from the bottom. So thank you for that.
Have you guys thought about adding something like when it first boots up that it raises all the cells, just so that if one of them is broken, it can be identified before it causes an issue with somebody misreading a text that's being displayed to them?
No, that's a good solution. That's definitely a good idea that I don't think we've thought of before, so thank you for that. That shouldn't be too hard to implement. It should just be like a simple command of code. So as you start up the device, everything goes up, everything goes down. And anyone who's excited or wants to check how it works can see any defects or possible defects.
Thank you. Building off on the question that Noah asked, I don't know if the ESP32 has any speakers, but have you thought of implementing kind of a speaker into your device so that if an error happens, it can tell the user so that they don't have to waste time off figuring it out? And also, the second part of these speakers, could you implement kind of like a a tutorial of Braille to help new visually impaired people learn Braille since a lot of people use Braille.
And so the speaker is something we're definitely going to implement once we're in the final iterations of the device. It's crucial to know like the positioning and how the user should be able to do it. So we need that feedback. Speaker being used to indicate any possible defects is also a good idea, and that shouldn't be hard to implement. Like you stated, with having the Braille pins raised up and down, if defects are detected, the speaker can go off. And then to your second question about having a Braille tutorial. I don't think we've thought about that yet, but
Yeah, I think that isn't something that we've currently been thinking of, but when we talk to Perkins, I think that's a connection, working with the Innovation Center to make sure that we're implementing everything that would be necessary for this device to actually help children who are losing their vision. Okay, I think we'll go with one more question, and then after that, we have the stations. So if you have any questions, any comments, want to see some demonstrations, definitely do check them out.
Could you give a cost breakdown of each component of the device, right? So looking at what it would cost to replace one of those pins, what it would cost to replace a whole module, right, PCB board.
I think that's something perfect that you can check out at the finance station. So thank you so much for attending. We'd really like to thank everyone who's given their time and who has, considered our presentation, given really valuable feedback. And we hope that you will check out the stations, check out the posters. You can get much more information and a higher level of interaction with our team there. All right. So yeah, feel free to stand up, go to the poster.
So Raycon. That's really funny. That's